So it's the next day and I came out here to check on my plants because the weather has just changed so dramatically. Yesterday it was a lovely upper 70s and it was beautiful. I had to uncover everything, open up everything, have fans going, and it was just gorgeous in here. So the nice thing about that was it was able to put some heat into these water barrels, which I've got all of my trays started on top of. And that helps to warm up these trays so that they're the appropriate temperature for the seeds to sprout. Now, if the temperature continues to drop, and I'm sure it will tonight, I will have to make a decision at that point and decide whether I'm going to just cover these with an additional layer of plastic, all of these trays, or whether I'm going to move them under those row covers, because if you remember from previous videos, I've got geothermal heat in here. And it brings up 50-degree heat from the ground, so I'm not so concerned about them freezing if I put them under those row covers. But a nice alternative is having them on these water barrels because they are so warm. I just checked and they're 75 degrees now, as opposed to under the row covers it's 56 degrees. So I'd like to weigh this out and see how the day goes and see if it warms up at all so that I can, make a decision as far as what I want to do with these plants. Springtime can be a juggling time for us because of the temperature swings. We have 30 and 40 degree differences in temperatures. And to be totally honest, I started my seeds earlier than I should have, knowing that I've got a greenhouse and that I can keep them somewhat protected from the wind. But I wanted to try to experiment a little bit, and I had learned from doing the winter sowing. If you had seen any of my previous videos, I have a video on winter sowing, and it is where you just put some soil and seeds in a milk jug and set them outside, and they will sprout at the appropriate time. Now, I've reserved that method for just the tomato plants because they do get quite leggy, which means they're really tall and thin. And that's okay for tomatoes because you can always plant them really deep and they will make little milk roots off the sides of the stem, so it's always helpful to have all those extra roots. So anyway, I came out here to check on these flats. Some of them are starting to sprout. I've got a whole lot of onions that are coming up here and a few tomatoes, not a whole lot, but the important thing is I wanted to make sure that I keep the soil temperature 50 degrees or warmer. The warmer the better. But I'm trying something new this year that I had learned from winter sowing, and that my seeds and my plants were a whole lot hardier if I didn't baby them. And I didn't have to harden them off. Now, years past, I had always planted in our dining room. I have a set of shelves and grow lights that I put things on. They grow really well in there. But before I put them out in the garden, there's a week or 2 weeks where I need to take them outdoors daily and let them harden off in the sun. The first day you do an hour, and then you do 2 hours, and so on until you build up a tolerance till the plants can tolerate full sun and full wind and just get stronger and able to be on their own out into the open garden. Now, one trick that I did learn from that is if you've got a lot of plants to move, what I was doing one year was I put them all in the back of our pickup truck. And that way I could pull the truck out into the sunshine and let them harden off for an hour or two and then back it back into the shop or the garage. And that worked really well, where I didn't have to haul 15 or 20 trays outside and then carry them all back in. So just some changes that I wanted you to be aware of, things that I'm doing differently this year. We're going to try it as an experiment because I'm always looking for easier ways to do things. And I do have this greenhouse, which makes it really nice. It's just I've got to overcome those temperature swings, and it's difficult this time of year. This greenhouse is 14 by 21, so it's a little larger than what I'd like to have if I was just doing a little planting shed or a seeding shed where I could heat it. And this is a little bit bigger than that. It's also a single layer of plastic, so that's not really conducive to heating with the heater. I do have the fans going for geothermal, and it does quite well underneath these row covers. But if I pull those off, the heat seems to dissipate in here and go out through the single layer of plastic, and I really only get an extra degree or two. Whereas underneath the row covers, it will stay significantly warmer. By 10 degrees over what's in here, and I've got a few degrees warmer in here than what's outside. So depending on the temperature, I can do quite well underneath those row covers. But they do pose some problems of their own. I am required to come out and uncover them every day and cover them back up every night. There could be some condensation problems under there if I was worried about mold and slugs and different bugs. I don't have that problem this time of year, but it could be a problem later on. So just some different things that I'm trying to overcome, different problems that I'm working with. I might cover this with a layer of plastic tonight, or I might actually decide to put them all underneath the row covers and keep them warm overnight, depending on how the temperature is this evening. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm really jumping the gun on getting things planted this year. I'm really starting early because I'm so excited, and we've had some really nice weather lately that I'm just hopeful that spring will come early, and I want to be ready. I just want to get out there and get it done just as soon as I can. But I'm also very mindful that plants are delicate and they need certain requirements as far as heat, sunlight, and water. And if you don't meet those requirements, they're just not going to do well, and they might even die. So got to make sure that I take care of my plants properly, and this is how I'm doing it this year. And I wanted to show you my strawberries and gutters are doing quite well. I had tucked some straw in there. Some of them are already starting to sprout, and I've got a little bud on this one here. It's a bit early yet, but the one concern that I had when I put straw in here, just as a mulch, is I was afraid I'd be growing wheat. And in this particular gutter, that's exactly what I've got. So I can certainly pluck those out. I left them grow a little bit longer than I wanted to, just to be able to show you that this is what I've got. And for some reason, this gutter of strawberries is not doing as well as the other. Now, last summer I had taken them up to the garden and put them in an area where they could be watered well, but I believe this gutter is the one that got full sun and dried out a lot, so it was just not doing as well to begin with. So there's probably some strawberries in here that I'm going to have to replant. There are a few in here that are starting to pop back, but there are quite a few dead ones that I'm going to have to replant, or I might do something different as far as putting it in a strawberry planter. I've got some ideas for a strawberry tower this year that I want to try, so we'll see if I've got time to implement that. But if not, this gutter idea worked pretty well. It was really nice to have them up off the ground and be able to pick them, but it did require me being really careful as far as monitoring how hot it was getting and making sure that they were watered well. So there are some positives to doing this gutter system, and then there are some drawbacks. So just wanted you to be aware of that. If you have certain requirements in your area, if you're not able to get out there and water every day, then I would not be doing the gutter system. I might be trying something different. So, well, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching. Oh, and one more thing. I hope to see you again soon.